The control board there thing makes me think of that game Simon that
yeah.
I don't think anyone really played, but it was always like
Fuzz the challenge.
Advert-
Noises and live.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was just a stand-in advertisement on Double Dare.
You remember the commercial for Crossfire?
Yeah.
The most overhyped commercial for the
Crossfire! You get caught up in it.
You get the game, you're like, what is this?
That was exciting stuff back then.
Yeah, it was really just a badass version of Hungry Hippos.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sounds of Health, where we shine a light on the stories, people, and resources that help our listeners to improve their physical, emotional, and financial well-being. Thank you to everyone out there who has been listening and sharing our sounds. If you are joining us for the first time today, be sure to give our previous episodes a listen and tell everyone you know about us. I'm your host, Dave MacNiven, and today I'm excited to welcome the owner and CEO of Nexus Property Management. He's also an investor and a former professional poker player, Nick Dagnillo. Hey, Nick, how are you?
You're good. How are you, Dave? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm happy to have you here. We also have your colleague, Mick Lefort. Mick, how you doing today?
Doing well, thanks.
Great. So, Mick, you're the general manager of Nexus here in New Haven County, Connecticut, correct?
Yeah, we got the office here in North Haven. We service the whole general area. Yep.
Excellent. Well, I'm really happy that you guys are joining us today. I know you came a little bit of a way to get here, right?
Yeah. What was that, like hour and a half or whatever to get out here from Providence?
Providence, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. Yeah, so appreciate you making the journey. And Mick, I know you're here all the time. You're a member of the BNI group that we're a part of together, the Nutmeg State Networkers BNI. So you go back and forth, correct?
Yeah, I'm all over the place, getting to know the Connecticut map pretty well.
That's great. Well, there's a lot to talk about. I'm excited to get to the poker conversation because I'm also a poker player, not professional, but I have been playing for many years with groups of friends and really enjoy poker as something to do in my downtime. It's funny, the two things that I enjoy the most, I think, when it comes to recreation are baseball and poker. And I actually find that they're very similar and they kind of challenge the brain in similar ways. And they also kind of mirror life in many ways, too. So I'm really interested to talk to you about that. But also, this is kind of the first episode where we're getting a topic that's hitting more of that financial well-being. We've had guys who own gyms and work with seniors, people who have taught courses like death, dying, and bereavement. We had a former Major League Baseball player who had an amazing story, but we haven't really had an episode yet that's focused on that financial well-being. And I think property management is something I certainly didn't know a lot about until I met Mick. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who don't know what it is and don't know what the opportunities are. So I'm really excited to talk to you about that business as well. To get started, Nick, why don't you just tell me a little bit about your background and your journey to becoming the CEO of Nexus?
Okay. I guess we can start like in college. I studied finance and psychology. And during that time, I was a blackjack dealer, a high-stakes blackjack dealer at Foxwoods Casino.
Oh, that's great.
So this is kind of where my education started. And I remember seeing people losing thousands of dollars at a whim. And I wanted to know how they were able to do that. So I would strike up a conversation with as many people as I could. And real estate was the common denominator in most of their stories. So I tried to position myself to purchase some real estate and get in the game. So I was able to put away like half my money in my 401k for a couple of years and got lucky to have a down payment for rental property while I was in college. I bought a 3-family, moved in, and that was kind of my, ticket to the party in real estate.
Sure, yeah. So you knew enough to go with a multi-family property to start.
Yeah. I knew to try to keep my expenses down, and that was the easiest way to do it early.
Yeah, that's really smart. I wish I had gotten that advice when I was just starting out.
Yeah. Well, that was what I mean, some of my, some of my parents were telling me not to do it and that kind of stuff. So it wasn't common advice I was getting from around me, but from what I was reading, what I was learning from work and everything else, it seemed like the path.
Gotcha. Now, are you originally from Rhode Island?
Yes.
You are. Okay. So you were coming into Connecticut to work at Foxwoods?
Yep.
Okay. Gotcha. And then how did things kind of progress from there?
So I was able to get a second property with my mother. I bought a 4-unit the following year, and I finished up my degree a couple of years after. So I was working as a blackjack dealer and finishing up school at Bryant University. And I got my finance degree in '09, which is really, really shitty time to have it.
Yeah, right.
But during that time, I was like playing poker on the side.
Okay.
So I grew up playing a lot of gin rummy, high-low jack, a lot of cards game. My grandmother was a card player, and I started playing probably when I was like 6, 7, 8.
Oh, wow.
So I played poker for money when I was 10, and was able to just have that as a hobby. And you guys remember Chris Moneymaker winning the World Series of Poker in 2003?
Absolutely.
So that was like the poker boom. So there was a poker game everywhere. Well, the key for me was I started playing poker a lot in 1998 with rounders. Mm-hmm. So when everybody wanted to play poker 5 years later, I had at least a 5-year head start.
Yeah, that's great.
So I was kind of winning right out the gate and doing that on the side. And in 2009, with a finance degree, in making more money playing poker than I was dealing blackjack, I kind of shed the blackjack and just played poker full time.
Oh, wow. Okay. And were you doing that just in this area, or were you traveling?
Mostly in the Mohegan Sun.
Okay.
I played for it was about 4 years I played for a living. I played in, home games and stuff, but primarily Mohegan Sun.
Gotcha. Yeah, I talked to a lot of guys who started around that time, at least during the moneymaker boom. I came into it way after that. I ended up starting in a home game with a bunch of friends and playing, but we were dedicated. We did it weekly for over a decade. And it's, it's one of those games that it really does challenge you to kind of control your emotions, to think strategically, to take in information and to be present in the moment. So it's all of those skills that I think really translate into actual life as well.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it also makes you do those things very quickly.
Yeah, for sure.
You have seconds to make decisions in most streets in a normal poker game. So to come up with a life situation, if you play enough poker, you kind of start thinking the same way on everything. And so you make quality decisions very quickly.
Gotcha. And it does feel like one of those things. I know people consider it gambling, but it's also a game that does have a level of skill. Especially back then during the moneymaker boom, it was probably a whole lot easier to win at poker then than it is now.
The games were so good. It was like you needed half a clue to make a ton of money. And now you need to be pretty good because everybody has half a clue.
Everybody's good. Yeah. It's wild. Yeah.
You have to be able to approach it a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to only be playing with what you can afford to lose, right?
Oh yeah.
You have to control that aspect of it as well, because there is a downside to it and people can get sucked into it, and that's never a good thing.
Yep.
So when did you start to kind of transition out of that and into this next phase?
So I purchased my those first rental properties in 2005 and 2006. So started playing poker 2009. About 2013, I was a little burnt out with poker and was looking for something that was more scalable. Yeah. And I had already been managing those rental properties now for 8 years, going on a decade. So then I was like, well, I've built this skill. Maybe I can make a business around this.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's when I started researching property management as a business. I remember walking into a property management office near my house and just talking to the owner. They just let me walk in and pick his brain a little bit. And he was a national franchise. And then I started, got a website together, got my real estate broker's license, rented a small office, 2 desks, one computer, 2 monitors. I had a fake reception desk with a monitor and no computer tower. And, it was off to the races.
That's great. So you just kind of jumped in full steam ahead.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I remember. I wasn't playing poker, so I remember I put a lot of debt on my credit cards, and I remember doing the math, and I was like, okay, if I can get 18 units under management, I could eat.
Wow. Yeah.
And first year we got 160.
That's amazing. Holy cow. Now, you obviously had a little bit of experience with the 2 properties you had already that you were managing, right?
Yeah, I started out right away.
Yeah.
My first unit, I had to evict them. So
Wow. Yeah.
after that, I was like, all right, well, I've seen the worst of this process. So it kind of got easier after that. I got better at dealing with the management, planning ahead, and just, screening tenants and doing repairs efficiently and economically. And
now, were you a handy guy as well? Were you able to do a lot? No,
not at all. Okay. I actually had a business partner on the first property, a guy I went to school with who was handy. Okay. And that was kind of my crutch for that part of it. And then I learned.
Gotcha. So you taught yourself.
Yeah, I learned the basics of what I needed to know, at least to be able to talk about it or fix some minor things.
Right. Yeah.
I did some turnovers on that 4 unit, doing the rent readies and the painting and minor plumbing, minor electrical.
Yeah, I'm sure it's like anything else is you don't learn it until you're doing it, right? So you kind of have to figure it out as you go.
Yeah, it was before YouTube too, so it would have been nice to have that back then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I kind of lean on my brother. He's the handy guy in the family, so I don't know about anything, and he comes over to the house and helps us out a lot. So, but yeah, it is easier these days. You can get on YouTube and you can find out how to do something pretty quickly. But yeah, back then you didn't really have that as a crutch.
Yeah, just break a lot of things and then figure it out.
Yeah. So then now you've got, so was it Nexus right at that point?
Yes.
Did you? Okay. And you were just in Rhode Island?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what happened from there? How did you scale it?
So the plan, once I started it and started getting traction, I tried to approach it like a poker hand. Like, what's the best decision if I was given this position and this decision with these variables a million times in a row? Yeah. What's the best course of action? So I try to do that on every decision and try to make policies and procedures that would just be the right ones, the efficient answers. And so I did that I read the E-Myth around this time, so I already had franchising in mind.
Yeah.
And so I just started a course of, figuring it out as I went and building up policies and procedures that would translate.
Gotcha.
And in 2017, so 4 years later, I sold my first franchise to a poker friend who was also a professional poker player who was looking for something. Yeah. And he opened up his office in Fall River.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. Now, were you doing anything different from other property managers? Was there something that was setting you apart?
Yeah, there was a few small, it was a handful of small things that added up to a big difference. So in 2012, 2013, most property management companies were mom and pop, or they were a side business of a brokerage.
Okay.
So there wasn't a lot of I'm just going to manage property companies, and if they were kind of small, and they were run by older people who had less of a web presence and weren't leaning on technology as much. So I leaned heavily into SEO early and technology with the software. Like I remember signing up for my main software, and it was expensive. I didn't have any units, and I was like, oh my God, how am I going to pay this?
Yeah.
And, but then that gave me a foundation to build out all these efficient processes. So I was able to do all these tasks that would take my competition a substantial amount of time. I was able to do it instantly.
That's amazing.
And have it streamlined early on. And so that kind of compounds over time.
Okay. And were you leaning on other people to help you with these things? I mean, I'm guessing that a lot of the work you were doing, you were farming out to specialists or no?
I found a kind of a general handyman early on, and he became my maintenance director, and we did a lot in-house pretty early, because it was the only way to maintain quality for the repairs, and then just to be able to get somebody on the phone or get somebody to come out, it's tough. So that was a big leg up, and then we were able to build a full maintenance department
That's great.
off of that.
Now, you have locations on the website of Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Arizona.
Yes.
So are those franchise locations? Are those
Yeah, they're
how
all
does it-
they're all
franchises?
franchised. Yep, the company owns the one in Rhode Island, the original,
Okay.
and the rest are franchises.
Gotcha. And then do you maintain the unique experience that people have? How do you use that, whatever makes Nexus unique? How do you pass that off to a franchise owner?
Yeah, so we handle all of the website, the back office software, and the front office software for them, the training and
Gotcha, yeah.
ongoing marketing, search engine optimization, all of that. So, we give them all the tools and ongoing support and the framework, and then they just they're the kind of the boots on the ground dealing directly with the clients and the tenants.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Are you continuing to grow? Do you see yourself getting bigger?
Yeah, we're looking to expand into Hartford, and we're looking to put a new office in Fall River. That franchise agreement wasn't renewed; there was a buyout arrangement, so that territory is also available. And we're looking to grow across the country eventually, but we're
That's great.
going slow and making strong relationships.
Best way to do it. So, Mick, how do you get into this? So, what was your background, and how did you get involved?
So I knew I knew Nick from high school, and early on, kind of had that feel of like, there's a guy to keep tabs on.
Yeah.
We got along, and it's funny that in your intro, you talked about baseball and poker, and Nick and I have had great conversations with his poker background, and I played baseball for quite a while. So we had that bond, and I was a teacher. So I was teaching in high school, and then I moved around, and I ended up at the middle school level and was using less of that high school brain, and went looking for a summer job. Went in to see Nick. I was like, hey, you got anything I can do? And I was expecting him to say, here's a hammer, go smash something. And it was when he was in that small 500 square foot office. He
Yeah, that's
said,
probably being generous.
yeah. And he was like, well, I'm looking to franchise. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to franchise this. I was like, this thing? You're franchising? But it was that piece. So for me, it was the perfect answer, because I was able to use that skill set in terms of writing and going in and learning, how he does what he does.
Yeah.
And I think, to me, kind of back to that question where you asked, like, what separates you from some of the competition, I think that there's a lens there to kind of look at a lot of your past guests and this big umbrella of health, whether it be financial or physical or mental.
Yeah.
And to me, what pulled me in was a vision. Right? I think everyone you've had in these seats have been talking about a vision for, what it means to get older or what it means to be in shape.
Yeah.
And to me, what I saw with Nick and Nexus was, this is the vision of how to make, great financial decisions and let somebody else, shepherd you there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was kind of my pull. But I started by doing the policy stuff, and because of that, I learned the ins and outs of the company. And then, the way of the world with COVID and some other stuff, teaching changed a bit. And the 1 foot I had in the Nexus realm turned into a leg, and then a lower body. And then I got to that point of like, you know what, let's do this.
Yeah. That's when it's the right endeavor.
Yeah,
When you continue to get deeper and deeper involved.
Absolutely. So that's where I came in. And I think just that, I think Nick kind of ended by touching on relationships and having that relationship with him throughout, and then with the other franchise owners and other spots. Like, it's just, it feels like something that is so scalable and something to be a part of.
Yeah. I think you not being a teacher is a loss for the teaching profession. Just the little I know about you, I can only imagine you were really good up in front of the classroom. I don't know if you know, but he has this random fact every time he does his 60 seconds at BNI, and it's super creative. He comes up with something different every time. Now he's actually started leaning on the fact that he's making them up. So you have gotten a little bit lazy with it.
It's March. If you know teachers, March is it's that month.
Gotcha. But also, I think you opened my eyes to this world and to this type of a business. I didn't know these kinds of things existed. And so it's been interesting to learn, because I think, to have a healthy financial position when you're young and you're just starting out real estate is definitely a way a lot of people go, learning to know what's out there, knowing that it's an opportunity to maybe start with a multifamily property and then grow your way into your own home later on. Those are all types of things I don't think we teach in school. People don't know about, they don't understand it. And then also that you don't have to do everything yourself. So you guys do a lot for the properties that you manage, correct?
Yeah, we do virtually everything, as from leasing, maintenance, ongoing rent collection to evictions, the whole process and turnover.
And it's an affordable option for people who own properties?
Yeah, I would wager the average property owner who most likely has a full-time job, they would be making more money by having professional management than doing it themselves. There's actually a calculator on the website that will attest to this. If you, there's a DIY cost calculator.
Yeah.
You can put in whatever your income is, and it'll go with the average hours it takes to lease and manage a property, and the corresponding cost.
That's great.
Show you what it would be. It might not be profitable for every situation, but most it is.
Okay. Now, do you guys also help people that are considering getting into property, like starting to purchase? Will you guide them on that?
Yeah, we have it's called an Invest program, where we work with investors looking to purchase investment property. We don't work with anybody looking to purchase a primary residence, but we do work with investors.
Gotcha. That's great. So those resources are out there for people if they're really considering this as an option to build an income stream.
Yeah, and it's like as you're saying, it's financial health, and it's one of the earliest available opportunities for people with a limited income to get leverage and reduce their expenses and really change their financial life.
Yeah, for sure. Our producer, Jason, and I, we got started out of college as actors. So we were out there. We didn't make a whole lot of money doing it. And we were just having the conversation this morning about, we just know a lot of people in that industry who are pursuing their creative, dreams. And it's really hard to maintain it because they don't have the financial health to back up that journey, right? And there's a lot of things. If I knew that what I do today with health insurance existed back then, it's something that I very easily could have been involved in order to also fuel that creative side as well. So I know people do that with real estate all the time.
Yeah. The real estate, like for example, my situation where I was able to purchase that 3-family and move into it. So, instead of having high rent or a mortgage, I was paying $50 a month to live.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So when you set yourself up with a low expenses like that, now you have, opportunity with the rest of your capital and time that you would have needed to support this rent or this mortgage or whatever. And so now you have instead of having an opportunity cost of having to pay that or work this number of hours to support it, now you can kind of leverage and go somewhere else.
Yeah, that's great. I was also talking to somebody who is mentoring me on the side of life insurance and long-term care insurance yesterday. And, the way that he explains to people is start to reframe the way you think about how you earn a living. There's really only 2 ways to earn a dollar. It's a person at work or it's the dollar at work. So the more that you can find something that you've invested in that's generating that income and helping to support your lifestyle, then the healthier you're going to be financially in the long term.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's great. So now you've got this amazing franchise and business. What are the goals now from here?
Well, I want to continue growing it. I want existing offices to get to the level that our main office is, and have a similar success, and then continue expanding.
Now, do you go out to Arizona to support that franchise?
I haven't been there yet. We do a lot of Zoom calls.
Yeah, nice. It's worth the travel, I think. I was there very briefly when I was on a tour through the U.S. with a show, and it's beautiful out there. Yeah, great part of the country.
Yeah, I've been to Vegas. That's the only comparable.
Gotcha. That makes sense. That makes a whole lot of sense. Now, how about, for you guys, how do you find balance in everything that you're doing? I don't know what your family situations are like, but are you able to kind of balance that personal side with the professional side? How's that working out for you?
Yeah, I'm really bad at it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think the poker part is a big part of your imbalance, correct?
Yeah. So poker is like that in poker and work. So, with this kind of business, it's 24/7.
Yeah.
So there's always fires to put out, and you don't know when they're going to come. So
Right. So hard to be stuck at a poker table.
yeah, I had to be stuck at a poker table, and sometimes if I'm having dinner with the wife, there might be a call I might have to take.
Yeah.
So there's stuff like that. So my balance isn't amazing, but I do pretty good at building efficiency, so I'm not needed as unexpectedly as often as time goes on.
Gotcha. That's important.
Yeah.
Especially as you scale and grow.
Exactly. Yeah.
How about you, Mick?
Yeah, I would say the big change in career has let me step back and look at priorities
Yeah.
in terms of creating my schedule. And to that point, we're ready and available 24/7. But I've been able to maneuver the predictable parts of the job where I want them. So, every weekday morning from 7 to 8:03, I'm getting my son ready and putting him on the bus. That's a win. That's
Yeah,
something I
for
didn't
sure.
have before. So you think about like the priming of the day with that experience, so that whatever happens from 8:03 on, I'm ready to go. So I think in terms of, there's the kind of balance that you would see on a scale where, you've got an equal side here. To me, the big benefit of this lifestyle has been really able to build around those priorities.
Yeah.
And maybe I am working more now than I used to, but when I'm not working, I'm getting more out of it.
That's great. Yeah, I switched careers initially because I wanted more time with my family as my kids were young and they were starting to play baseball and sports. I was working in nonprofit, and that work was a dream job for me. Absolutely loved what I did, but it was nights and weekends, and there was no way around that. So I switched careers to find that flexibility. I probably work more now than I have ever worked, but I'm able to manipulate when and how, and to make sure that I don't miss out on things and that I'm present for my family, which I think as a business owner, that's one of the reasons why we do it, right?
Yeah, exactly. You might work more, but if you can manipulate when, that's huge.
Yeah, exactly. Now, have there been any thinking about for both of you, your personal health journey? So think about, it could be the physical side, the emotional side, or the financial side. Have there been any big challenges or pivotal moments in your life that have kind of defined how you've gotten to where you are?
Personal health?
Or any practices that how you kind of stay healthy for yourself?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess a big thing for me was my hours with playing poker, and I'm generally like a night owl, so it's hard for me to be on a normal schedule.
Yeah.
I always deviate and end up sleeping early in the day till the afternoon. Like I don't know if that's my circadian rhythm, however that works, but
Right.
So I actually built a gym in my house, and that helped me along. And I even have a laptop on the treadmill, so like I can just work, exercise,
Yeah.
simultaneously, and
That's great.
that really helps me.
How often are you exercising?
I try to do it more days than I don't, which is my goal. So 4 days a week is
Yeah.
my goal.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
That's great. How about you, Mick?
Yeah, I think to me, growing up throughout high school playing team sports, I mentioned the baseball before.
Yeah.
It was just really that transition from team sports that are more accessible when you're younger to then trying to fill that void with individual activities. So got into like surfing, got into rock climbing, stuff that you can do yourself.
Yeah.
And to the point of a lot of your the programs you've been putting together, I see guys who are 60, 70-year-olds up there,
Yeah,
crushing
for
the wall,
sure.
out there crushing waves, that kind of thing that vision of I can do this when I'm older. So let me start transitioning now.
Yeah.
And taking that, athletic background, that led to success in the past and just, really redefining it.
Yeah.
And it's huge because that's now my physical vision is, let's be getting to the top of this wall when you're 80 years old. Why not?
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And let's start now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all about balance, right? So, I mean, when we have something we enjoy to do, like poker recreationally, like that's my night off, basically. That's what I do. That's what I enjoy. But it's sedentary. So you even have to
Yeah.
balance that time, right?
Yeah.
You got to make sure that you're moving and staying healthy so that you're not just declining,
Absolutely. Yeah, and you kind of mentioned it earlier, which I would agree with, is finance and nutrition is very undertouched, at least when I went to school.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it's permeating more and more into the education. At least I can see it with my kids. They do get exposed to more of that than we did when we were going through. But it's just crucial. I mean, it is so important to build up those skills so that you can maintain your finances, so that you can maintain your health, and follow those dreams. So yeah, it's tough.
How about yourself in that same idea of your transition?
Yeah. I struggle with it too. I have times when I'm doing really well physically, and I've kind of gotten into a flow. I lost a lot of weight a couple of years ago and started exercising again, then had a setback. So my struggle has always been finding that consistency. So I'm working toward a quarter marathon in the next couple of weeks. So just started getting out there.
Nice.
Probably haven't trained as much as I should, but I'm going to do it, and hopefully that'll just kind of go from there. But I've been talking to people about strength training as well and how important that is. So we have a gym in our basement. So my goal is to more days than I'm not to be down there doing something. It doesn't have to be a long time. I find that I say yes to a lot of things. So I end up with these meetings on my calendar early in the mornings when I'm like, this is not what I should be doing. I need to kind of be a little more protective of my time going forward. But it's always a balancing act.
Yep, that makes sense. As someone who went through the Nexus franchise training,
Yeah.
and Nick talking about that, how's the best way to play this a million times, that poker mentality. That's made it so much easier for me to say no when I need to.
Yeah.
Because what I keep hearing, like, I use the example of my priority being my son in the morning. I hear both of you guys have gyms in your homes.
Yeah.
Right? So those are things you prioritized. I think it's great, but that idea of being able to say no it's tough.
It is. Yeah. But you got to protect your time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And your health. Yeah. So there's a lot that you guys have to offer. What's the best way for people to find you? And also, what are some ideal people to kind of send your way?
I'll let Mick handle that.
Yeah, ideally, we're happy to work with anybody who has a rental property that they need help with. We're seeing more and more right now with the way the market is, a lot more single families than we have in the past. People that have a house and because of the market aren't able to sell it, or they've got some other situation, so they're thinking, let me just rent this and make a couple bucks, while I rent. So we're seeing more and more of those people. Ideally, we were built around that Rhode Island model of Providence, Pawtucket, Central Falls, Woonsocket, similar to what you have throughout like Naugatuck Valley here. Those older 3-family, 4-family neighborhoods that are built around old factories and industry that has since left. That housing infrastructure is still there. So we think that we provide a much better value than our competitors do in that specific, that those buildings. So we're looking to get a hold of those owners, and they can find us. Our number is 203-900-4468. Most traffic comes through the website. It's www.nexusnhc, as in New Haven County.com. And that's really where our the lead generation is for the most part. But across the board, we're really looking to your point earlier, get people to invest in those multifamilies. That's where you're going to be able to, to create the most financial flexibility. That's where the most margins are. Nick didn't mention, but that house that he bought way back when still lives there.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just like that it isn't let's buy this and move on to something. Like he's there and he's got a master plan.
Yeah.
But we're looking for those people that just want to get involved in the multifamilies, and it may be intimidating, but that's why we're here.
Right. Gotcha. As a resource. How about on the franchise side? Are there people you're looking for to maybe have a conversation about opening up their own?
Yeah, we're looking. We're actually making a little bit of push in our marketing to talk to people who have adjacent businesses to rental property. So some people have, a small contracting business or a landscaping business or snow plowing business.
Yeah.
Painting, roofing, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we've talked to some people in Hartford and similar areas where they're looking for a more stable income. So these people would be perfect because they would still have their skill set and they'd be building a client base for that skill set and the foundation of tools and experience that they have built. But they'd also be able to be building residual income with their management fees on the side while fueling that original business that they, it's kind of feast or famine with a lot of these contracting businesses, So I'd like to, put that in thought seed in people's brains that are in those industries.
Yeah.
That property management might be the perfect solution to stabilize and scale their income.
Yeah. So to really protect themselves from those downtimes.
Exactly. And getting the value out of what they've already done.
Sure. Yeah. That's great. I mean, those skill sets I'm sure translate into all of this.
Yeah, there's not a lot of potential revenue streams with this business, be it landscaping, pest control, snow removal, turnovers, all the maintenance stuff. And it's there's a lot of areas of opportunity.
That's great. Well, I'm glad you guys are here in Connecticut because I think, learning about this and knowing that you're here is a great resource for people. So we're so happy to have you, Mick, as part of the BNI group because you've just done a fantastic as part of that group and helping us to really understand this process and what's available for people.
Yeah, thanks. And if I, to come full circle, I started as a teacher and here we are in this situation of trying to educate people on these opportunities that exist, for their financial well-being. So,
yeah. Are there any things that you guys are doing that you want to promote at all, or is it just a matter of people reaching out?
Nothing that I haven't touched on. Trying to get in the ear of all the property owners in the New Haven County area, and in all the adjacent areas outside of that, as far as potential franchisees, they could take a look at our stuff.
Okay. That's great.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would add is just in terms of, or along the lines of a testimonial, what's been really interesting and telling is that the Rhode Island office was the first one, and Nick mentioned Fall River, and since then we've opened in Worcester, and the gentleman who opened the Worcester franchise was a Rhode Island client. So he was so happy with the product and the services that he said, you know what? Well, first he said, I'll buy another. So he had 3 properties with us.
Yeah. He bought a bunch as
so
after his first
That's
one.
great.
So and then he got to the point where almost like playing Monopoly. Like, I'm done buying little houses.
Right,
I'll take a hotel. He said, I'll open a franchise. And then Natick opened. She's also a client, and she opened a franchise. I own a property in Rhode Island. I got the full feel, so I opened one. So we have that, as a testament to the services that Nexus provides. We're growing from within in that same way.
So your clients can grow with you.
Exactly, yeah. And that seems to be the best way to build a strong foundation of that relationship and continue on.
That's fantastic. I did notice, too, in your email signature that you have a few taglines as well that I really like. Obviously, the Property Management Authority, Your Property Managed. That's the one you use, right, a lot. Connecting you to better living. The Real Estate Investing Authority. So again, it sounds like there's a lot of opportunity for people to work with you guys, especially if they have big dreams and they want to create some residual income or just kind of dip their toe in the market, knowing that they can grow with you. So I really appreciate you being here to educate all of us on what those opportunities are and to talk about Nexus. I think it's great what you're doing. If there's ever an opportunity for you to come back and we can talk more, would love to have you back on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being here today. If you have any questions about property management, I highly recommend that you reach out to Mick and Nick. So Mick's here in New Haven County, Connecticut. Is a great resource. We'll make sure that we put that phone number and website up on our social media posts and make sure that people know where they can find you.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks
Yeah,
for the
absolutely. Thank you, guys. Sounds of Health is brought to you by Nutmeg Insurance Advisors and recorded at the office of Nutmeg Advisory Group in North Haven, Connecticut. The podcast is produced by Jason Carubia and Dave MacNiven with music by Rob Hames. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, X, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Please like, subscribe, and leave a review. Also, if you know someone who you think would be a good guest on the show, please email us at soundsofhealthpodcast@gmail.com. Each week, we spotlight the stories, people, and resources that inspire and motivate others to improve their health and we are just getting started. Help us to share these sounds, and don't keep us a secret.